So probably many of you know that the Brazilian government has issued a legislation to require all vehicles to be equipped with stolen vehicle tracking systems. The original target was to have those in place this year. It slipped a little bit, but what I want to go through is to explain the background, to explain what the current situation is, and to try to make some forecast about whether this will really be required in the future, because there are some legal objections being raised. So we need to try to understand what are those objections and how likely is it that the government will succeed in their target. Around 400,000 vehicles are stolen each year in Brazil, and out of all of the vehicles on the road, this means more than 1% of vehicles are stolen each year, which is a very, very high number. But if we focus on just the vehicles that have insurance protection, then this number probably doubles or triples to 2 or 3% of vehicles with insurance are stolen each year in Brazil. So to try to combat this, the Brazilian government, they requested the National Transit Council, called CONTRAN, to investigate what measures should they introduce to try and combat vehicle theft in Brazil. The proposal they came up with, and it's called Resolution 245, is that from August 2009, all vehicles should have been equipped with a stolen vehicle tracking system and a remote immobilization system. And this announcement was followed up with some preliminary specifications from an organization called Denatran, which is the National Transport Department in Brazil. So CONTRAN are the people who said, yes, we would like to have SVT in every vehicle, and Denatran are the people who developed the technical specifications to say how it should work. So the current timing has slipped a little bit, and this was partly because the specifications took a little bit longer to develop than was initially planned. But the target for passenger cars at the top of this chart is that 20% of vehicles produced, and I should say produced, it's not sales, but produced, should be equipped with a stolen vehicle tracking system from February 2010. And you can see that there's a rollout to try to achieve 100% production level towards the end of 2010, and various levels of fitment and rollout onto all other forms of transport in Brazil. So currently they are in a phase of testing, and they're equipping 1,000 vehicles with the SVT systems. They call it an assisted operation trial period, to check the interoperability and to check the performance of the systems. So just to confirm exactly what is required, the requirements started off talking about stolen vehicle tracking and remote immobilization. But at the bottom, I've shown that they've added in what I've called local immobilization. So this means an in-car immobilizer system like the majority of other vehicles around the world already have. On top of that, the requirement at the minute says the vehicle should be equipped with a remote immobilization system and a stolen vehicle tracking system. But the key thing is the vehicles should be equipped with an ECU that can support these functions, but there is no requirement to make them active. So the vehicle should be sold with the system, but it's up to the customer whether they want to pay to have the service active or not. So the target, or maybe the ambitious target of the Brazilian authorities, is that the vehicle should be able to be fitted with any DCM, and they all use a common communication protocol, which is called ACP 245. And in theory, the customer should be able to choose any service provider to get their telematics services from. So there should be no linking of, if you buy this car, you must get an SVT service from a certain service provider. So if it goes ahead, then we expect that the number of equipped vehicles with SVT in Brazil will increase from around 1.5 million this year to around 16 million by 2013. And it's this huge jump in scale and volume which is attracting, obviously, a lot of the DCM suppliers to develop products for the Brazilian market, because these volumes here will very quickly introduce economies of scale that can bring down the cost of the DCM to very, very low and competitive levels. The open question is, out of the 16 million boxes that could be fitted to vehicles, how many of those will actually turn into live tracking systems where the customer has decided to pay for the service to the TSP? So what will be the impact of all of this activity? Well, in theory, thefts should decrease, but our feeling is that the majority of this benefit will come from the immobilizer system. And actually, there is a danger that with the SVT system, it will not be simply a carjacking where the driver is forced out of the car, but they will be taken with the car at gunpoint to a remote location where maybe the SVT system can be removed from the vehicle before the vehicle is then sold or broken down into parts. So there's a danger by adding too much security to the vehicle that you actually increase the danger to the vehicle owner. I think a very well-known problem with SVT is that if thieves know where the box is in the car, they can attack it and disconnect it or attack the antenna system. Whilst it's an aftermarket system, the installer can vary every time where they put the telematics box. With an OE system that's line fit, it will always be in the same place in the car. So very quickly, the thieves will work out very quick and easy ways of overcoming these boxes by attacking either the box or the antenna system. So in some ways, we're defeating the purpose of an SVT system by fitting it to every vehicle. Throughout the process of introducing the legislation, there's been a number of legal claims and arguments about whether this should go ahead or not. And most recently, a federal court judge in Sao Paulo city in Brazil, he issued a judgment to say that from his point of view, this is illegal and that the government should not be allowed to mandate the fitment of SVT and immobilizer systems. He made this claim for two reasons. One is he's saying he doesn't like the linking of an immobilizer system to an SVT system. So he said it's fine if you want to mandate immobilizer system, but you shouldn't also at the same time require the fitment of an SVT system. On the other side is customer privacy or driver privacy. There is concern in Brazil that even if the customer doesn't choose to activate the system, it could be somehow remotely activated and their position could be tracked or the vehicle could be located against their will. So the government is currently in the process of launching an appeal against this judgment. And at the minute, we are still in that kind of phase of legal discussions between the government on one side and some of the judges on the other side. And at the minute, I think you would have to say that the February 2010 target probably looks unlikely to go ahead. The operational trial is proceeding in Brazil, but I think we have to keep watching the situation to understand or to really work out whether car manufacturers will be required to fit a local immobilizer and an SVT system, or whether we will end up with a local immobilizer as standard and maybe just having the availability of an SVT system if it's required by the customer when they buy the car. So I've focused very much on Brazil for this discussion, but I think there are some side benefits for the rest of the world. That if, because of the Brazilian requirements, the DCM suppliers are producing 16 or tens of millions of parts, then the cost of the core components for DCM will start to go down through economies of scale. So the cost of a DCM for Europe or for other regions in the world, the people who are winning big contracts in Brazil, and the main winners so far have been Continental and Magneti Marelli. These two companies have won a lot of contracts from vehicle manufacturers if their requirements go ahead. So they will have the economies of scale and the volume behind their Brazilian product that they can then use to develop lower cost systems for other regions around the world.